So, Naveen, let's talk about recovery now. I mean, what are the common injuries you see in cricket, which you see now, and what are the steps for this, for the recovery process for these injuries?
Yeah, so injuries is a very big factor right now because of the different formats the player is undergoing, and also a different time frame, and also different conditions. Like some players, domestic players are playing down south, then the next week they are playing the up north, then they will be playing Middle East or somewhere around the west. I mean the different climatic conditions. There are different food intake, and there is a lot of travel to be taken into notice also. So, with considering all these, major injuries would be like more due to overstrain or through fatigue, right. So, and when it comes to volume, when a cricketer is there in the ground, we can't just ask him to cut down his volume, because if imagine if a bowler is bowled around like 20 overs and he has to get the team all out, he has to again push for another 3-4 overs. There is no excuse for that. But as a strength and conditioning coach, what we do is, taking the consideration of his workload, we need to program the next day or the day end. So, we need to focus on recovery methods, like we use ice bath, we use pool sessions, we use hydration, we use supplements for certain amounts of for recovery. So, all these aspects we need to undertake in when we need to consider when it comes to planning the recoveries.
What do you see the role of physiotherapy when you're actually linking it to a cricketer's recovery plan? What do you think is the role of that?
When it comes to SNC, it's not just a trainer who has to work with the team. So, we require a physio who is always in traveling with the team. So, right now we have the leverage of carrying a masseur also along with the team, and as I said, like the SNC department, we do the assessments. The same way the physio we do is muscular screening when it starts when he starts with the team, and depending on the requirement we plan a prehab program. Prehab is done before something is again. So, prehab is planned according to the player's posture. So, during his MSK, that is muscular screening, he will get an analysis of a athlete of where he stands depending on his range of motion of his whole body, like whether it is ankle, knee, hip, shoulder, and depending on that he will design a program for the overall year, which is called as a prehab program, and we will be in loop. Like as a SNC we do our assessments, even the physio does their assessment, then we collaborate, we sit around, we design a program wherein it is always helpful for the athlete. So, on these, depending on these assessment, we get an idea of where the athlete might undergo an injury, whether it is overused or overstrained, everything comes into mind, but it plays a very big role. So, along with that we need to also check their injury status. So, right now thanks to NCA we have a lot of protocols where we need to practice every day before the start of the game. Like a trainer will have to quickly check around 4-5 minutes of all the movements before the warm up starts. Same way the physiotherapists also have a certain protocols where we need to check the range of motions, so that they will have a check on where exactly is he on the red line, or is he on the blue line, or is it green. So, green is always easy to go, blue is somewhere we need to check, or red flag is somewhere where we need to keep an eye on him, so that to just avoid the injuries.
So, we talked about recovery. How important is rest and actually to recover between matches and between training sessions, considering most of the cricketers who are playing at a certain level, they have matches at a regular pace, I mean with a limited time gap between them. So, how should they look at resting and actually recovering from one match to another?
Earlier when rest was mentioned, it was like complete rest, but right now if you see the sport evolving, how fast it's moving forward, we have very less time to take complete rest. So, it should be always active rest. You can indulge in pool sessions, you can focus on the impact, like normally all the players will have lot of injuries through impact on the ground. So, we can go on to lesser impact activities, like if he wants to work on his conditioning but is having some niggle in his lower limb, so we can give him a bike training, or we can give him a pool training, or we can give him something which is more easier for him, but we have to keep them active. So, rest does not mean just sleep around, but if you have a complete off season, yes, absolutely sleep is the right thing to do, but you will have to focus on the right areas at the right time. So, need to have also monitor your sleep period and your cycles of rest, how you are again getting back to the game.
I mean, these days, Naveen, I mean, there's so much importance given to the mental wellness of a player. So, what do you see is the role of psychology when it comes to a cricketer?
So, psychology plays a very big role, because being an athlete, like I have played so many matches and all, so I can understand how these players are experiencing. So, the reason why I am emphasizing is, earlier we had very less information and we had to learn a lot in the ground. So, it was always more practical. So, now there are so many things and so much of information without which is not required. So, even if you see a kid, he has a phone in his hand, and he gets all the information like how to play a drive, how to hit a shot, a scoop shot. Obviously, there is a lot of information for them, but there is a lot of practical thing missing. And also when it comes to psychology, so he needs to sit down and prepare his mental well-being, and there are a lot of ways to go around. Like they say, we talk about around being mentally strong, and it's not just talking to them, it's just a practice where you need to keep your body, your mind and everything. So that's where I think we need to focus more, because 80% of cricket is more about mind and 20% is the skill. And we have the longevity because we have to play the whole day, we need to play, we need to stop, we need to take a break, then you need to run, you need to sprint, you will take a break. So it's like sudden fractions of thing, and you have to channelize your vision also, because especially your concentration, because if you are playing a multi-day, you can't just concentrate on all the 90 overs. So you need to take intervals, you need to focus on certain areas. So right now psychology plays a major role, because that is the next thing happening right now in the game.
So, what are the common mistakes you see the cricketers are doing when it comes to recovery? Because cricketers who doesn't have a lot of knowledge about the recovery aspect, they want to be ready for the next match ready, they want to be part of the match, whether they have done through the recovery process or not is a very crucial aspect here. So, what is the mistakes that the cricketers does before they are ready?
Yeah. So, basically when it comes to fitness, I keep talking to a lot of athletes saying that fitness is just to know about your body. It's not just okay, he is doing it, it will work for me. Yeah. So there are a lot of various recovery methods, like you have ice bath, you have pool session, you have massage sessions, then you will have hydration, proper hydration, then you can have recovery through your supplementation, through your sleep. But you should know exact way to do what. For example, if you are down with lot of strain in the ground, right, then you don't have any option for a pool session or for an ice bath. So you can get back to the hotel and you can concentrate on some contrast baths, like contrast temperature, you can go hot and cold temperature. So you should be smart enough to know, because at elite level we have all the options, and all the domestic teams right now are having all the options, but when it comes to grassroots level, you should be really smart about knowing your body, when to push yourself, when to slow down, and when to work on your recovery methods. And it's just not the one day you do it, it's just a continuous process, because it's not just like batting, you pick up and hit 10 balls, you get into form, or you bowl 20 balls or 30 balls or practice for 1 week and you get good at the skill. But fitness is something which it takes time for your body, and you need to focus in, day out patiently, and also you should have the discipline for that.
You talked about rehab, you talked about prehab, right? I mean, when it comes to an injury which takes a longer time for a cricketer to recover from, so how do you prepare these cricketers physically and mentally during this long period when they are recovering from a serious injury?
See, when it comes to injury, I'll be the first person there, because I have experienced so many injuries in my career. So I'll try to focus more on that, and I know it is a tough time for them to get back into the game, because when you see the players, especially at the teenagers or at a junior level, when you see the other athletes are moving forward or is missing out a year due to injury, that's where they get frustrated, they start trying to push themselves. But again, we need to talk with them, we need to sit with them, we need to try and get into their shoes. At some days where they'll be having not even 1 inch of like maybe motivation to go forward, but as a good SNC, we need to also consider their mind, also the time and what phase they are undergoing. So as an athlete, as a player who have already played the game, so I feel have an extra edge of where I can understand the player, or else I will try and indulge him on different activities, but I'll try to get their motivation up. So basically, prehab is designed before an injury has happened. Like for example, when a physiotherapist does his muscular screening, we get an idea of his posture. For example, if he has a flat back or if he has a anterior pelvic tilt, for example. So there are certain areas where one part of the muscle is tight and other part is weak. So the physio or the SNC will try and focus on those areas and try and activate those muscles to avoid those injuries. For example, he might get injured in certain areas. So there is no guarantee that he will get injured, but this is to avoid the injuries. And rehab is something which is we have to focus on after the injury, whether it is post surgery or before surgery, after the injury. Rehab is the training where we work on after the injury. And the principles will be same, but to avoid the injuries we focus more on prehab. So a couple of exercises during their warm ups or during their activation. So we try and add those exercises so that he will be in good shape and he'll not get indulged in more injuries.
And again, I mean, these days you see, I mean, injury is something which is part and parcel of the game. I mean, cricketers, when you're playing at a certain level, injuries will happen during your course of the career, like you said. So what is the advice you give these young cricketers when they talk about injury prevention?
So basically, as I mentioned before, sport is more like a lifestyle, right? You will play the sport because you enjoy the game, you love the game, but it takes a lot of discipline also along with that. You learn a lot of things, we learn winning, we learn losing. So at times you might be injured, at times you might be in good shape, but this is something which has to be done continuously. You have to focus on the right things to do, right time to focus, and also it's not just one thing doing at one time. So it's a complete set. Like you have to train in the morning, you have to take your food in on time, you have to work on your supplementation or your nutrition, you have to focus on your skill, you have to also check your skill volume. Are you pushing enough on your skill? Because a lot of kids are focusing more on the strength and conditioning part, but they are not focusing more on the volume of the cricket. Because even during volume or in cricket, you try to improve your bowling muscles or your batting muscles. So it is a balance. It's not just one thing at one time. So my suggestion is always to do the right things at a right way, and you try and you try and work under someone who's experienced and also get some idea about your body, because every athlete is different from the other athlete. We can't start copying their workouts, or you can't start focusing as they are doing, because everyone has their own way of training or every way of playing.